Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They can be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folks try to ignore us. So we got the ballot boxes to vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia. So that we can move forward. Steps of order with the presence of mind. Everything.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host. I'm your White House correspondent. I am a busy person when we're on commercial, but I am right here with you. Listen, if you haven't already, download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Also, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way, you'll never, ever miss an episode. Now, listen, there's a lot going on this week. There's a lot in the news. There's a lot to unpack, but we're going to stretch out a little bit this hour. And we'll be talking to Jesse Jackson Jr. In a little bit, the former congressman, to help us sort of make sense out of some of the week's headlines. But first, it's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines. That's right. It's time for your national news roundup. And kicking us off, if I can get to my note, did you all know that all the hubbub around the Real ID is a big deal? Do you have your Real ID? You know, my mom has been on me about this Real ID for years now. I'm so glad that this deadline is coming up, so I don't have to hear anything else about Real ID. URL Media reporting that Real ID on Real ID 101 and what you need to fly. You need one of these Real IDs to fly within the United States starting May 7th, 2025, although some other documents will also work. You've probably heard about the enhanced form of identification more than once since 2005. That's how long we've been talking about Real ID. 2005, when it was first legislated to boost national security after the September 11th attacks, the Transportation Security Administration issued several deadlines over the years, but they were all pushed back for things like COVID-19 and backlogs at the Department of Motor Vehicles and state noncompliance. Well, this time it's a little bit different. This time around, the cutoffs seem to be real. It could cause longer TSA wait times at first and mean other consequences for you depending on your travel plans and immigration status. So here are a few things you need to know. First, check if you have a Real ID already. A Real ID card, it looks slightly different from the ID that you may be used to carrying. It should have a star or flag in one of the corners or say enhanced on it. And if you don't have one, you'll want to get one as soon as possible, especially before flying domestically or if you regularly go into federal buildings. You can only apply for one in person, right? That's not convenient, but that's what they say. The price ranges state by state, but it typically is well below $100. Check your local DMV for the exact estimate and set up an appointment. A U.S. passport will work to get you on a plane instead of a Real ID. So will a few other documents. But if you use a mobile driver's license, that has to be upgraded too. And so this is really important. I know that the summertime is right around the corner. A lot of people are planning on, perhaps taking a road trip, traveling somewhere. You want to make sure that there are no issues with your ID. And so take this Real ID stuff seriously. All right. All right, leaders, learners, and listeners, take it seriously because we don't want to hear of any of you being stranded. From making sure your Real ID is in order, we know that NBC News is reporting that the cardinals, conclaves, and popes, all of that is getting underway. Catholic cardinals from around the world are converging on Vatican City in advance of the conclave that will elect the successor to Pope Francis, who died Monday. Favorites have emerged, and once the conclave begins, it likely won't be long before a new pope is announced. As data shows, the conclaves don't take as long as they used to. Conclaves were first used to elect a pope about 8 centuries ago. That's how long they've been doing this, with early elections lasting months, even years. It's been nearly 200 years since a conclave took longer than a week, with modern conclaves typically taking 2 to 3 days. Just looking at the chart, Pope Francis's conclave took 2 days, as did Pope Benedict, John Paul I, and John Paul II. That was 3 days. And so, we shouldn't have to wait too much longer for a new pope to be elected by the cardinals. But I think the question really is whether or not this new pope is going to continue in the tradition of reform, or are they going to hearken back to, more conservative agenda for the church? That seems to be the talk of the town. When we come forward, we'll be joined with my colleague, the host of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show here on KBLA, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. If you missed our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall, the Altadena Eden Fire, 100 Days and Counting, you missed an evening of reverence, reflection, and reality.
You got to live in the reality because this is it. Every day you wake up, is this my life? Don't stay in denial because yes, it is. Don't stay in bargaining where you're praying for a miracle and if it wouldn't have happened, then this is what I would have done. It did.
Our panel participants kept it real. Really real.
I think, number one, it's amazing to me how we ignore systemic racism in our community. And as a people, we've apologized for so much. But when will we stop apologizing for what we have paid for? Because the truth of the matter is we paid for this.
You can always count on KBLA Talk 1580 to give it to you straight, no chaser. When you love folk, you tell them the truth. Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. With Downy Unstoppable, you just toss, wash, wow, for all day freshness.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes. So it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests as we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and delighted to welcome back to the show my friend, my brother, my colleague, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., host of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show right here on KBLA weekdays at 1 p.m. Pacific. You can also find him on WVON. Did I get that right? WVON in Chicago?
Yes, sir.
You are literally on the move.
Q, how do I sound, by the way? I just want to test my mic on the. I know I'm live on the program, but I want to make sure we're okay.
You sound
fantastic.
You sound great. You sound great. And so, listen. There's a lot of talk around town, a lot of talk around the world right now on Pope Francis. Of course, the Pope died on Monday, Easter Monday, and After his funeral on Friday, the cardinals will conclave and select the next pope. What I thought was so interesting, based on what's been reported, is that Pope Francis basically handpicked about 115 of the cardinals that will be participating in the conclave, 115 of the 135 cardinals participating. Clearly, this is a pope that is looking to exercise his influence on the Catholic Church well beyond the grave. Is that the way you see it?
There's absolutely no question about it. And when one considers the ministry of Pope Francis, he was an empath. He obviously had an affinity for the poor. He moved beyond dogma and dogma, and in his life's work, he shows us a unique pattern of consistency. Sure, there are those moments early in his life where one might challenge whether or not he was a man of God, as each of us in these moments in our lives are like that. But the fact of the matter is, this Pope looked at 2,000 years of history, 266 popes, and he decided to be different. He won't be buried at the Vatican. He'll be buried in another cathedral that honors Mary, the mother of Jesus of Nazareth. But more importantly, in his life and times, particularly for the last 12 years as Pope, we see him identifying with Africans, with where the church is growing. 2 African cardinals are in the line of succession to be the next pontiff. An Asian Pope is in line, a Filipino, to be the next pontiff. And by all objective counting and stretches of the imagination, it looks like we could be, as you said appropriately, looking at a pope whose mark and contribution to Christianity is far beyond the grave.
And speaking of his influence far beyond the grave, there are a lot of people that are speculating that there is a possibility that we could meet certainly the first Black pope that we've ever known, perhaps the first one we've known in hundreds of years. There's some speculation there was a Black pope from Africa hundreds of years ago. But what do you make of that? Because if you're looking at the Archbishop from the Congo or the Archbishop from Ghana, they are not one and the same. Some are more conservative than others. And I think this is a good reminder that, all skin folk ain't necessarily kinfolk.
That's right. I think that's right.
Everybody isn't unapologetically fill in the blank.
Right. These 2 popes could be very, very conservative men, given the very nature of the church. But I want to make this point. I think it's particularly important. The Catholic Church calls itself the church, as if it speaks for all of Christendom. But don't forget that in 1517, Martin Luther posted 95 theses on the church at Wittenberg, the Catholic Church at Wittenberg, that began the Protestant Reformation and hence our tradition. Our tradition is made up of hundreds of denominations, which includes the Baptists, the African Methodist Episcopals, the Church of God in Christ. Our traditions, the evangelicals in the United States, are all part of that Protestant Reformation in reaction to, quote unquote, the Catholic Church, which claims supremacy over the idea of its consistency in the ministry of Jesus of Nazareth from Peter to the present. Now, pay close attention to this. The single largest issue at the moment that Martin Luther posted his theses on the church at Wittenberg wasn't race. It was white folks fighting over the selling of indulgences, the selling of forgiveness, and the treatment of the least of these, because they didn't have access to the monarch. They didn't have access to higher clerical authorities within the church. So within Protestantism, the single largest division has been race. Race led to the founding of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Richard Allen and those who could not worship in Philadelphia with the other congregants were told that they had to sit in segregated sections. The National Baptist Convention broke away from the American Baptist Convention. So race is a factor. It will be interesting to see whether or not those devout Catholics who represent in the United States only 6% of global Catholicism, beyond America, 94% of all Catholics live. They're growing in great numbers in Africa. They're growing in great numbers in the Philippines and in Asia and in South America at a far greater rate than they're growing in Europe. Therefore, laying the foundation for the possibility of one African pope and or a Filipino pope to be pope in this conclave. There are two candidates from Africa, one from the Philippines, and the likelihood that they could be the successors of Francis is a big deal. The question still in front of us, Dr. Q, is this: will the Catholic Church and the faithful, when they see an African pope, someone who is not a white Jesus, or in their imagination that is largely a European creation during the Renaissance of what Jesus looks like, no symbols of who Jesus and what he looked like existed before that particular period in time, whether or not the Catholic Church could in fact experience its own splits as a result of the idea that an African or a Filipino could be pope. Some white folks just may not accept the idea that they're following an African.
Woo!
That's heavy, isn't it?
Ooh, it's heavy. It's heavy and it's juicy at the same time. How did that happen so quick? Listen, let's talk a little bit about some of the politics that are afoot here. We know that President Trump announced that he and First Lady Melania Trump are going to travel to Rome for the funeral of the Pope this Saturday. Just a quick glance at the numbers, according to some exit polls updated weeks after the election, an estimated 59% of Catholics opted for Trump over Vice President Harris, an increase of 9 percentage points from the 2020 race. The percentage of white Catholics voting for Trump in 2024 was even higher, over 60%. Trump also made gains among Latino voters, many of whom are Catholic. Talk to us about the politics of this. Clearly, President Trump's politics and Pope Francis's politics were vastly different, but the constituency that matters to them both is very much the same, no?
So the dicta and dogma of the Catholic Church, pro-life, over and against the idea of women having the right to make decisions about their own bodies, is a long-standing position of the Catholic Church. Not having women in the pulpits is a long-standing position of the Catholic Church, and you won't see women in the conclave. There will not likely be a woman that they reach outside of the conclave and announce that she is the 267th Pope. It's not likely to happen. And so there are these social issues, including gay and lesbian marriage, the LGBTQ community, that are deeply troubling for the spiritual life of devout Catholics, for which Donald Trump has tapped into. In the statuary hall during the inauguration of the President of the United States, he was willing to go so far as to say that only the United States will recognize two genders, male and female. And therefore, you saw the Congress of the United States overwhelmingly react to that. And a number of executive orders offered by the President of the United States seem to be in line with the thinking and the conservative political values of the President of the United States. But not all Catholics agree with Donald Trump, not on the social issues. They may be, how shall I say it, religiously and spiritually conservative, but they don't like the way this guy treats people. They're not as unkind and mean and not loving and or less judgmental than the politics of Donald Trump. And that therein lies a unique challenge for American Catholics. For example, during the Easter season, rather than talking about the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth, Donald Trump launched a political tirade on Easter Sunday and Monday about his political enemies and the idea of punishing them during the Easter season. No president has been that tone deaf for Christians in American history. Don't forget, John F. Kennedy was our nation's first Catholic president. Don't forget, Joe Biden was a Catholic president, and the world did not come to an end because Catholics became president of the United States. They put their hand on the Bible, and they swore to uphold the Constitution. They did not put their hand on the Constitution and swear to uphold the Bible, Catholicism, Protestantism, Islam, Judaism, or any other form of religion. They promised to be the civil minister of our state so that we can all get along. And that's one of the challenges that the Catholic Church is going to confront when they consider voting for Donald Trump and his agenda in the midterms.
We also can't forget that one of the challenges they have to confront is this campaign around mass deportations. We know that there are a number of devout Catholics who are also either undocumented themselves or they have families that have mixed immigration status. And so it was very clear that Pope Francis disapproved of the mass deportations. He disapproved of building walls and not bridges. And so, I think there's something interesting afoot for us to watch, how the president threads this needle with the Catholics at home and abroad, knowing very well that he is on the opposite side of issues where Pope Francis was on the other side. Jesse Jackson Jr., I hope that you will indulge me just a little bit more. I'm hoping and praying that that's the case. White House of worship. Trump elevates Christian prayer and power. We're seeing folks like Paula White-Cain leading the White House Office of Faith. I have a feeling that you have something to say about that you have something to illuminate, and I hope that you will stick around to illuminate just a little bit more. You are listening to A More Perfect Union here on KBLA Talk 1580. My guest, Jesse Jackson Jr., host of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show right here on KBLA. And for those of y'all in Chicago tuned in on WVON, you can hear him there too. More when we come forward.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you've tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Mike Island with 4 things you should know on the Black Information Network. Illinois Senator Dick Durbin will not run for re-election next year. The Democrat currently serves as the Senate Minority Whip and is a ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. Durbin said in his heart he knows it's time to pass the torch. Former New York Congressman George Santos will be sentenced Friday after previously pleading guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. Stocks are climbing for a second straight day. It comes as investors hope U.S. and China trade tensions may calm down soon. This after President Trump said he had no plans to remove Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell from his position. The public is lining up to pay their respects to Pope Francis. His body is lying in state at St. Peter's Basilica for public viewing. The 88-year-old Pope died Monday at the Vatican after suffering a stroke. His funeral will be held on Saturday. I'm Mike Island with 4 things you should know on your home for Black News First, the Black Information Network.
A crash in Sylmar on the 5 northbound past the 210, blocking the carpool in 3 left lanes. That drive is just jammed all the way out of Burbank, getting away from Olive. It's also affecting the 170 northbound leaving Oxnard Street, and the 210 westbound is backing up away from Roxford. Now, we're also looking at the drive in Santa Fe Springs. This earlier wreck is wrapped up on the 605 southbound before Telegraph. Traffic from Rose Hills and Devore slowing down 15 northbound, leaving the 215 merge all the way to Oak Hill.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
If you were watching the Lakers-Minnesota game Tuesday night on TNT, you might have heard Lakers coach J.J. Redick yelling profanities at his players during a timeout in the third quarter. A nearby TNT microphone picked up Redick using the F word several times, including this line, "What the F are you guys doing?" Redick was upset with his players for letting Minnesota cut a 22-point deficit to 11 with 7:40 left in the third quarter. The Lakers got the message. They went on a 9-0 run to regain control of the game and pulled away for a 94-85 win to even the series. Redick's angry timeout might be a turning point in the series for the Lakers. Game 3 in the best of 7 is Friday night in Minneapolis. The NFL draft begins Thursday. At the moment, the Rams and Chargers have not made a trade to move up. The Chargers have the number 22 pick at the first round. The Rams' first round pick is at number 26. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least likely to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Spar on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
That's known as The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and he is Jesse Jackson Jr. Yes, the former congressman and host of the Jesse Jackson Jr. show right here on KBLA. You can also hear him in Chicago on WVON, holding it down. We have been talking about some of the politics around President Trump's pending visit to Italy to attend the funeral of Pope Francis. But a lot of politics afoot on the faith front. We know that the New York Times reported that the White House, to some, is the White House of worship. Trump has elevated Christian prayer and power. We're talking about a cappella hymns in the Roosevelt Room, prayer in Jesus' name proclaimed from the Cabinet Room, hands stretching out in the Oval Office as pastors invoke Bible passages about how kings are established by God. From the moment Donald Trump was reelected to the presidency, his conservative Christian supporters have rejoiced in a second chance for their values to have power. And now, just weeks after, scenes like these are taking place at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue as they seize the opportunity. Jesse Jackson Jr., you know a thing or two about the faith-based community. What do you make of Paula White and company really working with the president to elevate faith-based work in the White House?
There are a couple of angles here that I want to explore in this particular segment of your show. First, I would never call the president a useful political idiot, but there is useful political idiocy. What the president doesn't know, understand, or has ever given any thought to is the appropriate role of faith for the individual who assumes the highest level and office in the land on behalf of all believers, non-believers, atheists, and those who practice no faith in a society that is secular like our own. Let me say this at the outset. America is, without question, my research over the last decade has confirmed it is a theological experiment. The founding fathers placed something in the Constitution called the finger of God. It is there. It is there as a word construction. We use differentiating and splitting. We see the same words and we see two different presidential job responsibilities. But when you look at it, extracted from Matthew chapter 1, verse 17, David and Jesus. David was the commander of an army, and Jesus was a repriever partner. David and Jesus commanded an army. David slew Goliath, and Jesus granted, in Old English, reprieves and pardons to people on earth as it is in heaven. This person is supposed to function in the lineage of David for all of the American people. That's not what we've seen from this president. This president is expanding the death penalty. Well, the state, the Roman Empire, crucified Jesus of Nazareth using the death penalty. There's something wrong with that 2,025 years later. We don't want the Lord and Savior, the victim of capital punishment. The Lord and Savior said, feed the hungry. Well, you can't close USAID as the wealthiest nation in human history when they need seeds, they need water, they need technology, they need vaccines, they need measles vaccines, they need diphtheria vaccines, they need our scientists at CDC to find out if there is a cure for Ebola and for other viruses that come from people who've not been vaccinated. These are all factors that could lead to what? The extermination of people, not because we've made a willful decision to hurt them, but because of our inaction given the blessings that God has given us. And so the real question for us is, Paula White and other evangelicals who are taking advantage of the president who did not place his hand on a Bible during his re-inauguration as president of the United States. He did not put his hand on the Bible and is not upholding the Constitution, whether or not they are using useful idiocy to advance their social agenda, Donald Trump notwithstanding. They want to impose their point of view by proselytizing it on the entire society.
And how does, the president's assassination attempt, how does that play into this? There are some reports that President Trump has said that he has been saved from death by, quotes, the grace of the Almighty God. His supporters' particular delight, as reported by the New York Times, President Trump's new White House faith office has physical office space in the prized real estate of the West Wing.
When I went to prison and survived that 30-month experience, I reaffirmed my belief in God because he saved me through that journey in my life. Who am I to say that when a man survives an assassination attempt that he or she might have a divine theological moment a transformation in their lives. I believe it's possible, but there is no evidence that he understands that the grace that God has shown him is a grace that then he must show other people. He granted pardons and reprieves to 1,500 people on day one of his administration, as he promised. But there's 70 million men and women who paid their debt to society in full, who've been waiting in a far longer line for receiving a full, absolute, complete, and unconditional pardon from the office of the President of the United States that he has ignored. And so, how do you selectively forgive people claiming that God has granted you new life and new opportunity and not understand in the same breath that there are millions of other people that the stroke of your pen, without the support of Congress or the Senate or the courts, can grant a new life to them as well? It seems that new life for Joe Biden is his son and his family. New life for Donald Trump are people that support him. But the rest of American society, those who are also obligated, committed to, and defend the Constitution of the United States, they too in their lives are deserving of the same forgiveness that was granted to this nation at its outset and at its inception by the architects of our republic. It was never designed to be a process by which only those who are politically connected and rich receive. And so there are a lot of hypocritical elements to the president's newfound faith, and we can only continue to prod him. Recently, the Reverend Jesse Jackson sent a letter to President Donald Trump asking him to grant pardons to 70,000 men and women, mostly doctors, nurse anesthesiologists, who went to prison for paperwork crimes. That is Medicare, Medicaid. They overbilled. Many of them wanted to pay it back, but not one of them went to medical school ever promising to themselves that I wanted to be a crook one day, but ended up getting charged with Medicare or Medicaid or some fraud. And as a result of having paid their debt to society, we need to bring those people back into the system so that they can continue to practice medicine and grant real healing powers to people who need it.
Jesse Jr., in our remaining minutes, I would be a fool if I didn't ask you about your thoughts about Senator Dick Durbin. Politico reporting that Durbin's final gift to Democrats being a graceful exit. News of his retirement went public today and has been widely hailed by fellow Democrats. He's been widely hailed by fellow Democrats for his long service to the state of Illinois, his years in Senate leadership, and his work championing immigrants and other causes. What are you hearing on the ground in Chicago in reaction to Senator Durbin's retirement? And are there any names that you're hearing more than others of folks that may be leading the pack to replace him?
It's going to be a large field. Dick Durbin served the people of the state of Illinois very well. He has obviously aged in the job. Most recently, he was one of 10 Senate Democrats who voted for the Trump budget. And so his next election certainly reflected the kind of sentiment that the voters in the state of Illinois wanted to hold him accountable for. He's not done town hall meetings in the 17 years that I was in Congress in the Black community. Not seen him one time in the 2nd Congressional District, the 1st Congressional District. He shows up in downtown Chicago, but he really doesn't talk to our community within the city of Chicago. He served our state well. He's served our country well. But it is time to move on. We need a younger crop of fighters in the United States Senate and in the Congress who understand the history of what we are up against. And so we wish Dick Durbin well. He served the people well, but now it's time for a change because we are confronting something we have never confronted as Americans, and we need some young legs to lead us in this fight.
Are there any young folks that have your attention? I'm not asking who you're endorsing, but unless you're sharing. But
well, I'm not endorsing anyone, but my replacement Congresswoman Robin Kelly, is certainly considering it. Juliana Stratton, who's an African American woman and the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Illinois, the Secretary of State, Alexi Janulius, is someone that I helped bring to politics when he first ran for office and was very successful. And so Michelle Obama's name has been mentioned. Rahm Emanuel's name has been mentioned. There are a number of notable people who are Democrats. I consider some of them to be has-beens whose names have been mentioned. I wouldn't even be surprised if Michelle Obama received a draft to be a candidate for the Senate. I expect a very crowded field, but lest should we forget, when the lightning struck in the state of Illinois in 2006 and Barack Obama became the Democratic nominee for president, Alan Keyes moved into the state of Illinois to run against him in the general election. And fortunately, Barack Obama was successful. So you don't have to be from Illinois to run for Senate in Illinois and many of the other states. We're looking at a campaign to control the United States Senate where Elon Musk could easily throw $100 million in the campaign to alter the dynamic of any congressional or Senate race in the nation. And so we'll be vigilant on this question. Of course, I have some concerns that Democrats nor Republicans are passing out forgiveness on the scale that ought to be passed out in order to bring our people together as a nation. And therefore, there could even very well be third-party general election candidates interested in the seat as well.
Our thanks to Jesse Jackson Jr., host of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA and WVON. Try stringing all those letters together. It's always a pleasure to be in conversation with you, brother.
Q, it's been a pleasure to be here, and I'm always honored when you invite me on your program.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon.
Look forward to it, brother.
You're listening to and streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
This is Stevie Wonder, calling on Los Angeles property owners to help get unhoused veterans off the street. If you're a property owner or know someone who is, consider accepting veteran housing vouchers. You will receive guaranteed rent while providing a stable and safe home. Help end veteran homelessness and make a real difference in people's lives.
Learn more by emailing houseourvets@lacity.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's cal-cruise-news.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's about time for the quiet part out loud. Now, I saw this headline and I thought, you know what? Maybe we should give the president the benefit of the doubt. Maybe on this. I know there's a lot, but maybe on this. Hear me out. USA Today is reporting that President Trump signs an executive order boosting artificial intelligence in K through 12 schools. That's right. He signed this executive order today aimed at bringing artificial intelligence into K through 12 schools in hopes of building a U.S. workforce equipped to use and advance the rapidly growing technology. Now, the directive, which again was reported first by USA Today before he signed it, it instructs the U.S. Education and Labor Departments to create opportunities for high school students to take AI courses and certification programs and to work with states to promote AI education. Trump also directed the Education Department, the same Education Department that his administration has been working to dismantle. He instructed that Education Department to favor the applications of AI in discretionary grant programs for teacher training, the National Science Foundation to prioritize research on the use of AI in education, and the Labor Department to expand AI-related apprenticeships. The president said before he signed the order in the Oval Office that this is a big deal because AI seems to be where it's at. The order, one of 7 education-related directives that the president signed today, underscores an area of bipartisan concern. How to best incorporate artificial intelligence into teaching. You see, both Democrats and Republicans have expressed fears about American students falling behind other nations, particularly, that's right, you guessed it, China, as technology becomes more advanced and integrated in the workforce. In addition, Trump's orders create a White House task force on artificial intelligence education, which includes Education Secretary Linda McMahon. This is the same Secretary McMahon who got A1 steak sauce mixed up with AI as an artificial intelligence, but I digress. It also includes Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer and will be chaired by Michael Krastios, Director of the White House Office of Science and Technology. When I read this at first, I thought, you know what? Giving our young people K through 12 more skills and not less is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We should be creating more opportunities, not less, for young people to learn how to code, for young people to learn machine learning and automation and AI and all of it. But I can't help but notice the sequencing of this stuff, right? If this was such a high priority for the president, making sure that young people from coast to coast are immersed in an education that includes artificial intelligence training, then why do you start with throwing a wrecking ball through the Department of Education? Why do you start with these mass firings of career staff in the Department of Education, among other federal agencies? This isn't a bad idea, but the way in which this president is going about this is mind-boggling. I mean, anybody who has any sense when it comes to change management knows that if you want to really support an initiative like this, making artificial intelligence available to young people across this country, K to 12, right? That you need a functioning agency in order to deliver on that. What we have right now is a dysfunctional agency. We have a dysfunctional Department of Education, among other agencies that are afoot. And so it's a great press release. It's a great story. When implemented using best and next practices. You don't just say, okay, I want everybody to learn AI. I think this is kind of important. No, like you make the implementation of such an initiative, such an ambitious initiative, you give it a chance to succeed. And I don't think that this president, I don't think this administration is giving initiatives like this, as reported, a chance to succeed. And if you aren't giving initiatives like this a chance to succeed, then it begs the question, are you giving our young people a chance to succeed? Certainly, putting forward these priorities for the National Science Foundation and other grant-making agencies to prioritize artificial intelligence, that sounds great. But if you're doing that while also defunding or threatening to defund universities across the country who may be teaching certain theories or topics or may have adopted certain practices as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion that are at odds with this White House, that doesn't make much sense. In short, as the streets say, I think they're doing too much and not enough at the same time. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village that helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day, to our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Andy, our show producers, Faraji, Kim, and Art, and of course, each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. We thank you. We curate this show each and every day with you in mind. We hope we've given you plenty of food for thought. But remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.